message I guess I want to tell people is anything's possible. Anything can happen. Your life can twist and turn so many different ways. You asked me 10 years ago, was this going to be my life? Stay out of your mind. You know, I never thought this was going to happen. You know, but it did, and you deal with it, and you make the changes you have to change. If I'm here another year, you see me here another year, then I gotta rethink what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you know, it was a time. I wouldn't give this up for anything. I would never give this life up. I mean, for this period of time.
Right.
You know, I'm glad I had the situation. You know, because I've grown from it. I've learned as much from this 2 years and 4 months that I did 34 years in business. You know.
What was life like before you became homeless?
Life was different. Let's put it that way. Very different. I've been homeless now for about 2 years and 4 months, and I was a bigamist. I had 2 homes actually. 2 homes, 2 wives, 2 sets of kids.
No way.
And I guess it got to a point where I got discovered. Eventually you're going to get discovered. I don't care what you do. You're going to get discovered. My girlfriend went to visit my wife, and that's
so
how
you mean you got caught?
I got caught.
Okay.
Yeah, I got caught. I think there was a certain suspicion for a long time, but then when they felt they had enough, you know, to go, they went and they actually met each other.
How long did you maintain this?
13 years.
13 years.
I think 13 years. Yeah.
So now, how much time were you giving each?
I was giving about, it was probably a little bit more time at my wife's place and where we lived than my girlfriend's place. I would probably give her on the average 2-3 times a week or something like that, my girlfriend. You know, it got more when my wife actually found out about it. Then I kind of spent all my time at my girlfriend's house. You don't know where to go because you know who's mad, who's holding something in. You sleep with one eye open.
Right.
You know, it's and let me tell you something. I'm not proud of it. Don't get the wrong idea. The reason why I'm acting like this, I'm nervous when I talk about it.
Right.
You know, I'm not proud of it. I don't recommend it. It's a lousy thing to do because it involves many people of many ages, right? Meaning the kids, the wife. You know, it gets complicated.
What got you into that?
I fell in love with a girl that I met about 2 weeks before I got married. So it was bad timing.
Right.
In other words, I was getting married again, my second marriage, and I met a woman and I fell in love with her. So what do? You got a wedding coming up, you know. By the way, both women had no idea about each other for years, for almost the whole time, you know.
And you had kids in both?
Yeah, kids in both. You know, my stepson was a lot older. He was in his 30s with my wife, but my girlfriend had a 6-year-old when I first started with her. She had a son that was in her belly. Was my son. And then about 10 years later, we had she had another. We broke off a little bit. She met somebody. She had a kid with this guy, and I took that kid under my roof as well. And I took care of the child.
So the day that they found out, tell me about that day.
The day they found out was we had a camera. My wife had a camera installed at the house, and my girlfriend that day came to see my wife and visit her, and tell her exactly, what happened. When I found out that my girlfriend was at my wife's house and the beans were spilled, you'd think I'd be in a panic. It's really weird. I was not in a panic. I was in a sense of relief. This going on for 14 years to finally out. It was a sense of relief. That's what I felt. I felt bad for the kids finding out and everything, but it was a sense of relief.
Right. Now, from there, your wife said you had to go, or you made that decision?
No, that's what was strange. That was what was strange. My wife didn't. I think my wife was in a little bit of disbelief. So it took her a while to believe what was actually happening. But she was pretty coy about it. We stayed together For a while. It was probably about no, not about maybe 6 months or so, and she kept it going. And I thought that she basically was okay with it in terms of if I break it off, she'll be okay.
Right.
But when she finally, when I finally came over to the house to get my stuff to get out, first time in 6 months she didn't let me in the house. She just said, "I'll bring this stuff out." She changed her attitude totally. And I believe that her person that she was with was in the house at the time or something. She met somebody obviously around that time, and didn't want anything to do with me. And to this day, we have not talked. We've not seen each other. I don't know where she is.
So
That's it.
so okay, you're busted, right?
Right, exactly the word.
What is the conversation between you and your wife?
This is what we did from both sides. I actually spent probably in total about 15 to 20 hours on both sides, both families, sitting down with the kids, sitting down with my wife, and saying, "Listen, anything you want to ask me, ask me. I'll answer it honestly. Listen, everything's out in the open now. It sucks, but let's talk about it. Let everybody ask the questions they want to ask, and let's do that." That's how we handled that. Actually came in, sat down, and said, "Okay, hit me with it. Any question you have, I'll answer." And that's what I did. So I spent hours and hours with both sides, both families, explaining why I did it, and the whole bit.
Now, that's kind of hard to believe. Now, no one was angry?
No, they were angry. Of course they were angry. Yeah.
What were they like? Were they angry at you or just at each other?
At me.
At
They
you?
were angry at me. No, they were definitely angry. Oh yeah, we had some heated moments during those discussions, of course.
One of your wife's questions had to be, how did you maintain it?
Well, when you talk about that, they saw it because I was my profession was an accountant.
Okay.
So what I did was I would tell my wife or my girlfriend, depending on which side of the family I wanted to stay with, that I had a client in Arkansas, or I had a client here or a client there, and that's where I'd be. So one family would think I'd be in Arkansas doing an audit, while the other family I was with. You know what I'm saying? That's how that's how I managed it in terms of them knowing exactly where I was with them.
Okay, so now you're on the street.
Yeah.
Was that correct?
You know something? I think it was a way that I wanted to give them whatever I had, and maybe a guilt thing, and that now I have nothing. I can work with that. I'll build myself again. I wanted to give them what I did have, and I would take it upon myself to build myself up again. And when I build myself up, I'll give them give them some of it as well.
Right.
I've always been generous and things like that.
Right. So becoming homeless, was that a decision?
Spot decision.
Okay.
I was sitting home one night just looking around, and I was saying, I don't know when the next shoe's gonna fall. You know what I'm saying? What's gonna happen? I got to get out of here, and I got to try to do something to make it better, to make a new life or whatever. And I decided I called up my limousine driver from the job that I was at a couple of years earlier, or several years earlier actually, and we became friends. I called him up and said, "Listen," I said, "pick me up. I'm leaving. I don't know where I'm going. Just pick me up. I got a couple of bags here with some clothes in it and stuff like that. And then, we'll see what happens when we get in the car." And we got in the car, and we're driving around, and we're on the Garden State Park. When I see the rest stop, I know rest stops, a lot of times you have homeless people hanging out. That's what I did. I said, "Joe, drop me off here. Wish me luck. I'll keep in touch with you. And I got to start now." And that's what I did. And we stayed in the back of McDonald's at a rest stop, and the previous owner of the McDonald's was a homeless person, so we understood. So he gave us that little area in the back to hang out.
Right.
And that's where we were for like 3 months before we came up here to Summit.
So your first day, you were the you made friends or?
No. What are you
Okay,
kidding?
tell me about your first day.
I sat there by myself, just look like this.
Right.
What about, what's it all about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? No, I didn't make any friends.
So
I sat there probably the first 3 or 4 days, just trying to soak it all in and see what I'm going to do, and are they going to somebody going to come talk to me or something, or what's going to happen? I didn't know. I was totally blank at that point.
So I mean, you had to stood out because you seem like this educated guy.
Mm-hmm.
You probably had money in the bank at the time.
I gave it all away.
Yeah. Okay. How did you adjust?
How did I adjust? I had to figure out how am I going to assimilate. How am I going to assimilate with these people? Have something in common with these people to be able to assimilate.
Right.
And slowly but surely, I took one person out, started a conversation or something. They were here, and I'm saying, well, how does that work? How do they allow you to be here? I mean, they have customers coming in and the whole bit, and they go, well, he does. If we behave ourselves, if we're quiet, we don't make any kind of a hassle,
right.
he'll let us stay. We had a couple of instances where maybe he got a little bit, maybe I'm gonna throw you guys out, but nothing too traumatic.
Right.
And that's what I did. I eventually assimilated with these people, and eventually, when that place actually closed 3 months after I got there, it was once again, where am I going?
Right.
Now I heard about Summit, which is here, and what happened was that a couple of the people at the rest stop I was at, down on the Parkway, used to come here like twice a week. I wasn't really sure why they came. They talked about Summit, and I was like, I didn't realize why they were here. But they came up for showers. They came up for Summit, allowed them to order clothes, food items, and I kind of got to know what Summit was all about. So when I left, I was thinking of Summit in the back of my mind. So I called my friend Joe, the limousine driver I was telling you about.
Right.
And basically, his wife didn't know that he was doing this, basically watching after me, So, basically I stayed in this car for like 3 days, and was deciding what the heck to do. So finally I said, listen, Joe, just take me up to Summit. I've heard good things about Summit. They have programs that take care of the homeless up here, and let me just try it. I can't tie you up with your car for day after day after day. Just drive me up to Summit, and I'll make it work.
And this is about 6 months of being homeless, or
3 months.
3 months.
3 months of being homeless, and he came to the front of the Summit train station, and he gave me I took my stuff, and I walked in. I sat down on one of the benches there, and I said, okay, this is the start of my homeless life here in Summit, not knowing what to expect or what was going to happen. And sure enough, the first night, the guy that was known to be a real troublemaker in this place knew I was new.
Right.
And kind of picked me out. So I'm sleeping, and I'm hearing this guy yelling and screaming. I didn't realize he was yelling and screaming at me. I just knew he was yelling and screaming, And the way I am, my personality, I'll challenge anybody. I don't care what size the person is or what they're all about, I'll just go after him, So when he was yelling, I just got up and did the same thing back to him. So we just went into a yelling match, and finally some other people just, calmed it down. But that was my first night out. I was like, holy crap. This is what I got to deal with every day, being homeless in Summit. So, but eventually, calmed down. And
so you were actually sleeping on the floor, or
on the bench?
On the bench.
And no blanket. I had my jacket. I would turn it the opposite way, so I would just cover myself, with the jacket. I'd use my bag as my pillow. They allowed that back then. They were a lot more. They were easier going than they are now. Now it's a lot tougher in the train station. You got to have a ticket for 2 hours. You stay there, and then you're out. Then it was like 24 hours a day to be in that train station.
Right.
But that's how it started out. My whole. I've been here for 2 years and 3 months since.
So now, being that you were an accountant, why didn't you just say, you know what, I'm gonna get a job and start over?
Mentally, I wasn't there. I wasn't there mentally. I was having some mental issues. You know, when I say mental issues, I would forget things. I was not, I used to have an incredible mind. Just keeping track of everything in my profession. I lost that. I think depression might have got to me eventually because I couldn't concentrate at times. I think things over and over and over again, not sure of what was going on. So mentally, I wasn't the best.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to find a place where I would be comfortable to chill out, to hopefully get that repaired, by not putting so much pressure on myself. And one way to get pressure off yourself, you let go of your possessions, you let go of your family, you go out on your own. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's what I chose to do, and hopefully things will get better, which they did. I still mentally am not where I used to be, but I knew what I had to do to try to get back into functioning properly with people.
But how bad was that mental that you're talking about? Because I know people, right?
It was bad.
And they have an issue if they repeat the same word. It's a problem. It bothers them. You know what I mean?
It was more serious than that. I would hallucinate.
Okay.
Right? I would pretend, if that's the right word, that many a time I pictured things happening in that train station that never happened. I remember like meetings in there about me. They'd all have meetings about me. They didn't know who I was, but yet they had meetings about me. And I would run out of the train station, and like 9-10 o'clock at night, this town is like dead. So I would be in the street, and there'd be nobody there. That's a pretty bad feeling. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of thing I would experience. I would if the word hallucinate's the right word, but I would see things that were not happening.
Right.
But believe me, for me, it was happening.
Right. Got it. So now, the assistance you get here is
I
that
get no assistance here.
Okay.
Nothing. No financial assistance. I guess I made enough money as a chief financial officer that I get a pretty hefty Social Security check.
Gotcha.
And luckily, when I first left, I wasn't keeping track of what age had to be to collect it. The first 6 months, I had nothing because I didn't cross 65 yet.
Okay.
I'm saying? I'm 66 now, but so I had nothing. So my limousine driver would give me $10 here, $20 here, $50 here. He would really help me along. He really helped me out a lot. If it wasn't for my limousine driver, to be honest with you, I don't know if I would have made it. I don't know what I would have done. But I cut down what I ate, so work, But he helped me a lot. Support, he's a humorous guy, so we laugh about things. He helped me out a hell of a lot.
Well, I'm curious. What was life like? When you first got your job as an accountant?
It was a steady climb. It was a steady climb. I started out with a company called Touche Ross. Now they're known as a Big 8 accounting firm.
Okay.
What that means is that they're 8 largest accounting firms in the world, and they were one of them. That was my beginning. Okay, I stayed with them for about 3 years. I did audits. I audited the companies, and I audited their books. Right. Once the books were audited, adjustments were made. They changed the financials to include those adjustments. Boom, you have your financials. The company's, finance report goes out. Everything's great. That's what I did. I did audits for 3 years. Then I had to decide what I wanted to do. I don't know if I wanted to be an auditor. It felt like you were working on stuff that happened afterwards. It was already done. You were auditing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it really wasn't exciting for me. So what I did was I left Touche Ross, but I left with a client. In other words, very common in Big 8 accounting firms that the people that work for the Big 8 accounting firm leave with a client and go to that company.
Right.
Okay, so that's how I left what they call public accounting, which is the auditing firm, into private accounting. The private accounting is where you become the the assistant controller, the controller, the VP of finance, the CFO, the COO, the CEO, of the company. And I climbed to CFO, which is Chief Financial Officer of the New York Mercantile Exchange. And I spent about 5 years there. Took them public. Did a couple of public offerings with them. So I had some extensive experience on Wall Street, as well. So it was a change. It was an uncommon thread, that I had to weave. But that's what I did.
And what was like your yearly income?
Oh my God. I was making as much. My biggest year, I probably made about 1.7 million.
Okay. And what were you buying, like jewelry, cars, like houses?
I was buying big houses. I bought a big house in Scotch Plains. Material things, cars, whatever makes you or your wife, happy. My wife was good though. My wife, at the time, she wasn't very materialistic. You know what I'm saying? So any money that was spent, like we got this big house and she was like, Ken, settle, calm down a little bit, this is, can we afford this? And she really didn't grow up with that kind of money. So it was money that she wasn't used to. So she was a little bit, tentative about it.
Right.
Me, it was like, hey, we hit the lottery. You know what I'm saying? Let's spend it. And I spent it.
Right.
And whether it was going on vacations and going out to meals or whatever the hell we were doing. But remember, you make 1.7. It's about net 900,000 with after taxes.
Right.
And the money, believe me, money can go pretty fast when you spend it and start buying things.
Right. In your time of being homeless, were you ever worried that any of your work colleagues would see you and maybe look down on you?
No, because I've approached them. I'll give you an example. I'm in that train station. I know one of the guys I took public, right, who's now he's a CFO of some big company. He lived in Summit. I knew that. And I knew he took the train in every day. And I knew one day he was going to, either find me or I have the nerve, which I had to get up the nerve, right, to go and talk to him. So one day I said, something, when he comes through those doors on Friday night, I'm going to go up to him. So literally, I got up, I put my hand out like this to him, and he walked right by. He walked right by. That kind of hit me. I was like, holy cow. Look, I guess my first thought was, look how far I have fallen, But that really hurt. And that went on for a month. And then what happened was that he actually came up to me, right? And he goes, Ken. I go, Lee. He goes, that is you, right? I go, yeah, that's me. Because what he did, when he went home that night, he called up a bunch of people, finding out where am I. Because he saw me. He walked by me, but he saw me. But he was so shy. He didn't know. He went back and he called people. Have you heard from Ken? What's Ken doing?
Right.
And he had to get up the nerve to come and talk to me. And we've had about 3 or 4 dinners together. He lives here. So I'm not.
Does he treat you any different?
Well, who knows? You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he does. It's not visible, but I'm sure. Right. But he's it's something I had to. I'm not embarrassed by it.
Right.
I'm really not embarrassed by it at all. So I was me being afraid to go up to him wasn't because I was embarrassed. I just didn't know what exactly to say.
Right.
Right. But like I said, he knows, I know. He's up choice to tons of people, and a lot of people know exactly what happened. And that's okay. Right. Because you can learn from something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, let's fast forward, because you say you want to be out of here by next year.
Yeah.
You're back on your feet.
Well, I'm not back on. Oh,
right. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You're back on your feet.
Right.
Are you going to come back and maybe help these guys that you were around while you were homeless?
Definitely. I'm never gonna forget these guys. Of course, I'm not going to be here every day,
Right.
but yeah. 'Cause I see the potential here.
Right.
I see the potential. I see the stigma tied to homeless people.
Mm.
You know, and a lot of it's just not there. People get bad breaks in life. They just do.
Right.
You know, it happens to everybody for whatever reason. You know, it's not always your fault. Even people who have alcohol and have drug addiction, there are reasons for that. Why they got to that. You know, they got to that level. You know, I'm going to try to do as much as I can. You know.
Right.
When I have the, if I had the ability like I had when I was wealthy, I would.
Okay, man. Once again, amazing story. Any last words? You know.
Basically, I would say enjoy life. You know, life has many twists and turns. You don't know where you're going to be in 5 years. Really, treat everybody like you want to be treated. You know. Because you find yourself one day you might be in a bad situation and you're not being treated like you want to be treated. Treat everybody like you want to be treated. That's probably the best message I can give.
Gotcha. Thank you, man.
All right, no problem.